Google.
The fuck up.
Why have we been away from Google Hangouts for so
What
long?
the? My God. Okay.
Okay.
I'm making up for. I'm drinking a growler tonight.
You got your own growler. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, that said the guy who has a tap full of beer.
That's true. That's still a lot less than what you have.
Hooked up to his arm.
Okay. So the order is going to be Downs and then Christian. Yes, interesting.
So we're going with that, eh? I guess.
I guess we'll see how that goes. All right. Wait, is anyone watching? Because it looks like I just saw a retweet from like Bizarro Jimmy Olsen. I think he must have logged on already.
No one's watching us yet, although I question the validity of these statistics. As I think I mentioned before.
I always question statistics because that's very I don't know.
That's who I am. That's who I am.
I just hate the statistics.
I just think there's too many avenues to watch it through that they. I mean, that's why I only sent one link. I just don't think they can count them all because when I was doing that live drinking thing, people said they were watching, and then it said there was only like one person. I knew there was. It said that people said there was more than one people watching, and I'm like, it kept saying one person. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So
yeah, maybe sometimes if you watch through YouTube, I'm sorry, if you watch like in an embed on Facebook, it's not counting it. Yeah.
I try to save my avenues for sauntering, not for internet traffic.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Anyways.
So, let's do it. Stop
funny joke. Move on.
All right.
Get ready for more.
Because he's completely
on Wednesday nights.
He's completely sober, so this is not good.
Oh, jeez.
Am I funnier when I'm drunk? Is that what you're saying?
Well, not really. Okay, so let's. All right. Hello and welcome back to the Atomic Geeks podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 23. It's good to have you back listening. My name is Michael DiGiovanni. I am sitting firmly in the hosting chair, and I am podcasting under the influence again because I'm drinking me one of Indie Ale House's Barnyard Belgian IPAs. Let's see who's a little different, but still with us tonight.
Well, hello, I am different but the same. My name is Mike Downs. When I podcast, I like to do it in my basement, standing at my bar, drinking beer that I made over there in the bathroom. And we call this little fucking place Boxwood Brewing. And that's what we do here. We brew beer, podcast, kick ass, and take names. My name is Mike Downs.
Oh, hello, Internet. In a world where a man podcasts from his basement and doesn't drink beer, what does he drink? And tonight on the Atomic Geeks podcast, Christian is drinking Gatorade because he's got himself a bit of the sniffles. Blah, blah, blah. Studio logos.
Yeah, because I was trying to think. I'm like, it sounded like you were doing almost like a voiceover movie trailer guy thing there.
And halfway to that, I go, wow, this sounds great, and it's totally wrong for the podcast.
I know. When we do our next trailer talk, that would have been a very appropriate.
That would make sense.
Oh, okay.
It was actually kind of. I found it kind of difficult to weave in the topic into the intro.
We're going to have to, hopefully our editor in post is going to have added some bells and or whistles to amp up this topic.
Or change our background color or something. That's
make me sound like I'm sepia toned, okay? With stars coming out of my ears.
You have to make us look old timey.
Yeah, we'll just maybe we'll kind of download ourselves in a lower audio format or something like that. Well, actually, we usually have shitty audio quality anyways, so...
burn.
No, I'm burning ourselves.
Take that,
you're burning us.
Take that, us!
That's right. Boy, we suck.
We are horrible.
Thanks for listening.
We are pretty bad. And we're not off to a good start because we're only operating at 2/3 drunk tonight. We've got a man down, so... It's like we're right back to Season 1 and we've got Andrew Bloom with us or something.
That's right.
Yeah, just not as hairy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can, later on in the podcast, can scrounge up some bathtub gin and pour it in this Gatorade Blue. Man, I can feel the electrolytes reviving themselves already, for crying out loud.
Well, I was just hoping that maybe before we got really into our topic, Christian could take a couple more shots of NyQuil or something like that. But
That's right.
talking about that, let's get into the topic for tonight. And this is a bit of a different one. I'm calling this one movie studio logo variants. That just rolls off the tongue.
Boy, that sounds like a hashtag right there.
Yeah, it's a
so
lengthy
short.
one.
It's a
But,
URL. It's so short, actually.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Wasn't that a big hit in the 80s? Movie studio logo variants.
It was a big song by Herbie Hancock.
In my heart.
But so what this is, if you don't understand what the hell I'm saying, is this is those moments where movie studios, you know, they have all their familiar little animations, their logos, etc., and they adapt and or change these to fit specific. They adapt and or change these to fit the specifications of a particular film. It's something that you may not think about immediately, but as we start talking about this, I think you'll understand there's a whole bunch of examples of this. And I just thought there's a discussion here because this has been done in a lot of cool and interesting ways in the past. So I thought, fellas, let's dive deep into these movie studio logo variations.
Okay, well, so before we move on to the variations, though, like to your point about you might not notice, I think the fact that we notice these things paints kind of a picture of who we are. But you know, what this reminded, like in terms of kind of the types of geeks we are, but what this reminded me of is when I was a kid, I would notice just when, you know, the logo changed of a company, when they, you know, when it went from, it used to just be a 2D and all of a sudden, you know, the camera would pan through the ocean or something, or the stars would, you know, I remember it was a Paramount, the stars would come along and they would dip a toe of the star into the water and then a line. And I remember being a kid and kind of getting excited. Like, that's how much of a movie nerd I was, is that it was like, oh my God, this is a new Paramount logo. And I would that would freak, like I would look excited. I got excited about that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Sorry, I was going to say something I don't even know what I was going to say.
Go.
No, go.
No, it's
okay.
Christian, go.
I just picture this young Mike Downs sitting in his pajamas, you know, in front of the TV, going, getting so excited for the movie, and then realizing it's Howard the Duck, for crying out loud, or something like that afterwards. Like, the peak of his excitement is actually when the logo starts. You know what I mean?
But I paid attention to what the logos were on movies. Is I guess what I'm saying.
I did too, and it's like you would notice when the crest of Warner Brothers got updated or modernized or something like that, right? Like,
I think that is the precursor to then, like, literally one day, one guy said, oh, wait a second, what if we started the theme of the movie in the logo of the film of the whoever the producer is of the movie, right? And that's what spawned this topic you're talking about now.
Yeah. So I mean, that idea of them, the filmmaker, the crew deciding to do this, where they're saying, yes, we're being distributed by Universal Pictures or 20th Century Fox, etc., and they tweak it a little bit. What is your thought on that, Christian? Like, do you like that? Do you think it's like unnecessary? What's your quick thought on these variations?
I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. You know what I mean? Every time I see where the logo is kind of like tweaked a little bit to reflect the tone of the movie, it makes me think that the company is a lot more stupidly. The company's like a lot more interested in the movie. Like, hey, we're getting you warmed up for the movie. Whereas it is slap on the old traditional friggin' logo we use for every other piece of shit out there, for crying out. That means like they're not as invested in the movie as I'd like to think they are.
Very, very good point. You're right. Like, that almost kind of lends itself to the studio has faith in this, that they're willing to let their brand be kind of played with. I mean, you're not doing that for the wacky, seventh sequel to Police Academy, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing that. You're doing it where, okay, this is a big blockbuster, or this is a film that we think it's franchisable or something, so the studio is saying, have at it.
Well, I'm not sure if I agree with that because Smurfs 2 has something that is unique in their logo. I think it's more, to me, it's more a sign of the filmmaker caring so much about their film that they want to get the audience involved from the beginning of the first thing you see, which is usually the studio logo. So, I mean, similar to what Christian's saying, but I don't think it's to what you're saying, Mike, like the studio's going, oh, we think this is going to be a big blockbuster, so we'll let you do this. I think it's the attention to detail that a great filmmaker pays attention to so many things in the movie, up to and including the logo that appears at the beginning of the movie.
I love that you just said a great filmmaker, attention to detail, on the heels of referencing Smurfs 2. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but so the thing is that the director who made Smurfs 2, he might be some guy who's stuck in a fucking studio contract, right? And doesn't want to do it, but he says, you know what? I do the best goddamn fucking Smurfs movie I can ever make, up to and including the little Smurf hat is going to come flying through the Universal logo. And I think that to me, so to answer your original question, Mike, when I love this idea. As a audience member, it signifies to me that they care that much about the story that the place they're taking me to, that they're starting it at the instant, the first visual that I see on the screen, including the fucking company logo.
Yeah, and like it in a way, it is somewhat unnecessary and it's minor, and maybe our moms, our dads, our aunts, our uncles aren't paying attention to this. But I think it's neat. I just think it's a neat touch. I like paying attention to this. I have subtly paid attention to them. I think now with my research, I didn't realize how many movies have done this. But the one thing that I thought when I was kind of getting my head around this idea, in a way, this is almost like the original Easter egg. It's sort of like that. The post-credit scenes, using air quotes, is so trendy now. This was like the original pre-credit scene thing that filmmakers went, we're going to add a little something else, so we're going to throw it at the front. We're going to fuck around with the Disney Studio logo.
I think another reason why they're doing this more and more these days is essentially much along the lines of interesting-looking commercials on television now, is that people won't fast forward right to the action of the film. They may actually pause and say, wait, that logo looks different. Let's pause and see what they're doing, and then actually consciously remember what the friggin' studio is.
That's a very good point as well. I think all of this, everything that we've said thus far is true. It's passionate filmmakers. It's probably studios wanting you to pay attention. And 3, it's probably they're doing it for films that they assume are going to be widely watched, right?
Well, and I would argue now that what my comment about filmmakers who care, I think that's the way it was when it first started. Now, I think it's almost on a checklist of a blockbuster checklist. You know what I mean?
Right.
When they're going down the list, they're talking to the filmmaker, they're going, okay, what are you going to do to the logo to make it unique? Especially in certain categories, maybe to get into a bit of your discussion here, but animation now...
Oh, it happens all the time.
It is every animation movie now does it. Like we talk about it was rare, now it's a fad, or it's like I said, it's mandatory or standard as part of animation movies for sure.
Yeah, so if you want to see some examples of these, if these aren't jumping to mind, I mean, I'll give you a quick example. Like, the obvious one or an easy one here is the Matrix movies. The Warner Brothers logo became like that green, matrixy, like computer language looking sort of font. That's what we're talking about here. The website ScreenCrush.com actually did a really good article on it. They gave their top 25 of the examples of these. Trust me, go to YouTube and type in studio logo movie variants, and you can watch 7, 8, 10 minutes of videos just how someone has clipped in and shown all of the variants for particular studios. It's rather fascinating, and that's why I thought this is something we've never talked about, and it's something that's worth talking about. So, fellas, once again, as we got into this, I was surprised at how many movies did this. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's some obvious ones that jump to mind, but like then there's ones that you go, wait a minute, Cannonball Run did this? Like I had no idea. I don't recall that at all. That Cannonball Run, 20th Century Fox was the studio, and during that the 20th Century Fox, which is the big the
Spotlights and 20th Century Fox, whatever, giant letters
on like Roman columns sort of thing, and an animated car comes driving around it, and then a police car comes around it. Like, these are ones I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even think I knew that happened, but this shit was happening back at Cannonball Run. So let's start there. Christian, what is the earliest that you recall this happening, or that maybe you picked up on it, like that you kind of went, oh, okay, they did something there?
Well, you just literally podcast kicked me in the ass, because when you brought up this topic, that was actually one of the ones I actually remembered was the Cannonball Run, for crying out loud. Because
oh really?
Yeah, because I've watched that movie many times. It's like a broken record on this podcast, if you've listened for a long time, talking about that goddamn movie. I've watched the movie, the director's commentary and stuff like that. The director didn't mention anything about wanting to change the logo. But yeah, that was the one I remembered offhand. The earliest one before that? I'm trying to think. I guess the next one I remember would be Strange Brew.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just friggin' awesome. Like, where the basic, the lion is like in that kind of like the crappy version of the frame around this. The MGM line is there, and they're actually Bob and Doug are in the back, playing with his tail and all that kind of shit.
Didn't they feed him, like, isn't the lion wasted or something? Like, they obviously fed him beer and stuff.
They basically allude to the fact that he's been drugged or something like that, and that's why they can play with his tail or something like that.
Yeah. See, that's one. Yeah, that's an early one for sure that I remembered, and it's a pretty famous one, in fact. Downs, have we stomped on any of your examples? Like, what's one where you went as like that? Is you being a younger person where you went, wait, what's going on? They did something there. That's different.
Well, I mean, I certainly had a problem with this topic. I couldn't remember literally a single one. Like, I think as maybe the listener too, until you start talking about these things, once I started watching them all, the clips of them or reading the list, I could not remember a single one. Until kind of after the fact. I mean, The Matrix came to mind. I remember some more recent ones, but I'll tell you what. Since I didn't have a real answer for this, I did think there is an old one that I did almost remember happening, or I don't remember. I don't know if it's now that I've read it. I'm like, oh, I watched that movie as a kid a few times. We had this movie. It was one of the first few VHS movies we ever had as a kid, and the movie's called Cat Ballou. Do you guys know what this movie is, Cat Ballou?
Is that friggin' Clint Eastwood and friggin' Delta Force Lee Marvin? It's like almost like a musical in the Old West.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it doesn't sound great.
Wait, unless I'm confusing with.
Cat Ballou is about a girl who is a cowboy who's a girl who's like a six-shooter. I can hardly remember the. She's like a stunt cowgirl. It's one of those movies you watch as a kid.
What is this, like 70s, 80s? Like what?
60s. I think it's like literally, it's like just barely color, but it's one of the earliest ones in that list of and stuff that you see where I think it was, what's the company, after watching all these, the companies all blend together, but it's the one with the statue, is that Columbia?
Yes.
So the statue actually turns to Cat Ballou, and she winks at the camera and then shoots like 2 6-guns. And when I watched it, I'm like, holy cow, I remember that being a kid of that, and that being like totally weird going way back then. You know what I mean? There's something that early could have happened and done that.
I don't recall this movie at all. I remember seeing that referenced in one of the lists. But this movie, Christian's saying Lee Marvin and Clint Eastwood and
I think I'm thinking of a different movie. There's
I don't think the movie he's talked about is. It's about a woman who's a stunt cowgirl who shoots. But there was lots of singing. I remember that too because it was like, "Oh, Cat Ballou." I can't remember them all, but there was songs.
No, please try to recall.
Oh, Cat Ballou, you love your horse more than you love me. Where's your lasso, Cat Ballou?
Oh, she has a lasso. This is getting more interesting.
It gets more interesting. When I was doing because I'll admit, just as much as Mike was saying, was that how many of these friggin' studio logo things I can recall. Those two were pretty much the ones that came to the top of mind. Other ones, pardon me, hold on a second here. Other ones, I really had to kind of look on the internet and go, oh, okay.
You had to be reminded of, yeah.
Well, I mean, versus like the ones that there are a lot now that are that I remember that are more recent. But in terms of going back to your question of when you were younger, what do you remember? I had a real hard time. Again, my memory's shit anyways, so as well documented.
But doing this internet research though, and seeing a whole kind of cross section of different intros and stuff like that, the one thing I did realize.
Sorry. So Cat Ballou, 1965, Jane Fonda and Lee Marvin.
Oh, so we're kind of right. Christian was.
So it's a woman seeking revenge for her murdered father hires a famous gunman, but he's very different from what she expects.
So she sings her ass off, is what is also in that. Jane Fonda, is that?
Yep, Jane Fonda. I mean, she was young then. This is 1965, right?
So she plays Cat, does she?
I assumed.
This sounds like the classic film jerks definitely need to watch this movie, I think. So Christian, what were you saying there?
Well, what I was trying to say was that basically after looking at the various logo variations from different studios and stuff like that, it seems to me that friggin' the granddaddy of them all, the company that kind of like, I guess I would think. Oh, should I not mention this now?
You're kind of getting ahead of yourself here. But okay. Because I haven't said my part here yet about my old one yet.
Oh, okay. Well, then edit that whole part out then.
Yeah, let me jump in because you're getting ahead of us a little bit there. Wait.
Okay.
So there we go. Now we know what Cat Ballou is. I feel much better already. You know what? I agree, guys. Like a lot of these, when I was doing research, I was reminded of a lot. Like there was like The Matrix and some other ones. I kind of had an idea of, and I remember fondly. But a lot of them I had to actually go through and look and go, oh shit, you're right. That had one, or this one was, and blah blah blah. But I remember one of the first times that I kind of picked up that I kind of went and I noticed something was going on, and maybe this is almost a real precursor to these variants because this was more of incorporating the studio logo into the first shot of the movie, and that was all of the Indiana Jones movies played with the Paramount logo. So if you remember, the Paramount logo is the one with the mountainscape, right? And Raiders kind of dissolves into a mountain peak, right? And I remembered kind of noticing that when I was very young, and then all of the subsequent sequels still do this. So even though the actual logo is not changing, Spielberg made a conscious effort to kind of incorporate that mountain into, because I think in Temple of Doom, the mountain becomes an image on the gong at the Obi-Wan Club, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm a bit conflicted with that. I think I always, I mean, not that I have anything wrong with the intro logo, to kind of like, hey, this is what the movie's about, or it's something similar to it. I always find it kind of like it's almost odd that it blends into the movie, like it's actually part of the movie. I feel like those two should be kind of separate.
Oh, I disagree. I completely disagree. I think that's neat when you can. Again, I think it's clever that you can wrap that in. If it's forced, sure, I don't agree, but I think it's if you can do that. Like, not just to trounce on your older one, but I mean, one of the great ones is, Waterworld, which is the is that Universal, which is
Yeah,
the
that's
planet,
Yeah.
right? And so it's I just rewatched it literally just before we got on the podcast because that's on Netflix UK, and the planet just slowly fills with water, and it's part of the story, and that is fucking goddamn clever as far as I'm concerned. The story is seamless. There's no break of these fucking corporate shills when I'm just trying to fucking watch a movie. I paid you my fucking money. Well, I gotta look at your fucking logo. Well, at least this fucking artist has made it fucking part of the story.
So you're happy when the corporation disguises their logo into the movie so you can't detect it at all.
Absolutely, I'd like it to be part of the experience more than I would to have it right fucking disjoint experience. You're goddamn right, I would.
And I think that Waterworld one is personally that's one of my favorite ones. I will say that right now. Yeah. It is one of the classics, and it's one of the ones that made me think about this topic. But Christian, you were saying like my Indiana Jones one. You don't think that counts for this conversation?
No, I don't think I didn't say it didn't count. I was just talking the whole style of actually the transition being like seamless, almost not seamless, but you know what I mean, like blending it right into the movie itself. You know what I mean? I always, like I said, like I consider them like separate entities, so to speak. The idea of it kind of like meshing together that fluidly like that seems odd to me.
Yeah, and you're right. And so the Indiana Jones ones, the Waterworld, great example of this, is probably the epitome of this, is where the movie starts out of this logo, basically, where Christian's saying there's the other way where we let's just make the Warner Brothers logo in a different font. Let's have it snowing because this is Jack Frost.
Well,
right?
I think that is now to the earlier point of how fucking common they are. I think that is the everyday's man version of updating the logo, right? It's like, oh, well, we'll make it green, or you know what I mean? Like that's the simplest way to customize the company studio logo.
So you like that the when they integrate it where it's scene one kind of spills out of the logo in a certain respect.
I just think the more clever you are, the better. Like another one, another great one that I was, in all of the mounds of these on the internet. Again, there's so many that I loved. I can't remember what studio it is, but it's also Village Roadshow. It's for the Hellblazer movie with Keanu Reeves.
Right. Okay.
Shit fucking movie. But what happens is the logos is all like in that decayed hell-like state, and the wind comes and blows it away, and just like visually fucking totally cool. So rather than at the very again, a lot of them now just have it's red or and the music starts. That is how we blend them together now. Is okay. We colorize because Warner Brothers I think is sorry, you don't want to get into that topic yet.
Hold on. So Downs, you've started to saying some of the ones that you think are great. Christian, give us some. You've already thrown out. Strange Brew. That one's fucking awesome. What are some of these other ones that you personally think are great examples of these?
Of the ones I've seen on the internet, I like the one that they did for for Men in Black 2. And that was done by Columbia, and Columbia's the very attractive woman who's standing on. Who is that person supposed to be for crying out?
I don't know. It's not the Statue of Liberty. It's like the Statue of Liberty's cousin or something.
She's like Mrs. Columbia or something like that.
She's holding a torch and wearing a robe.
Yeah, she's like the movie star pageant winner or something at some point.
No, she's the model that the Statue of Liberty is based on.
Yes, she's Lady Columbia Liberty or something like that.
But for I'll start that again. But for Men in Black 2, instead of holding up that magic Columbia torch or whatever the hell she's holding up the neuralizer, and so that at a certain point near the end of the actual logo, it flashes on like if the whole audience is about to be neuralized. I thought that was kind of neat.
That's kind of neat. Another one that I really liked is Scott Pilgrim, where it's done in the classic sort of video game 8-bit version.
Pixelated,
Yeah, the pixelated version. Really easy to do, but still, it's a nice synergy with the film that you're about to watch.
They did the same thing for Wreck-It Ralph, right, where they actually cut to the Disney Animated Studios logo, which is always Steamboat Willie dancing back and forth and whistling, but they put it in an 8-bit kind of format, so that was kind of neat as well.
Oh my God! Can I tell you, thanks to having kids, Wreck-It Ralph is a great movie. I think we've mentioned it on this show before. I really hope they make a sequel to that. I mean, now that we have to go to see these animated movies all the time, I'm crossing my goddamn fingers for a Wreck-It Ralph sequel because God, that was a fun movie.
They're doing The Incredibles. Didn't I hear that? They're making The Incredibles 2. That's in the works right now?
That is correct. I've heard pretty much Pixar is going to sequelize everything.
Yeah, I think they're doing a prequel, though, aren't they? Isn't it more about the guy who goes crazy, the car racer guy?
Is that what it is? Oh, no, are you talking about The Incredibles, or are you talking about...
no, not Incredibles, Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that happens. I was thinking, I'm like, shit, I haven't seen The Incredibles in a while. I don't remember that part at all.
That's a lot better than the crazy race car guy character I was trying to figure out was in The Incredibles, for crying out loud.
So, Downs, give us another one of an example of one that you think's a really cool studio logo variant.
Again, reminded when I was watching these of one of the best. And when you think of it, I knew this in my head, actually, but I didn't know what movie it was on. And so I was going through these lists and doing internet research. But the movie is Gremlins 2.
Okay.
And it's a Warner Brothers movie. And what happened is it's instead of Bugs Bunny coming out and doing the normal, they used to do that where he would eat his carrot and whatever. Daffy Duck comes in and interrupts him. And they have this kind of whole little animated... 45 to 1 minute short animated of these characters before Gremlins 2 that just happened when that movie came out.
So that was only specific to the Gremlins? So the Gremlins are not necessarily in the logo, it just was this Daffy and fucking Bugs thing.
Yeah, it might have been because of the 75th anniversary or something like that, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it debuted on that, but like when I was going through the list, I saw Gremlins 2, I didn't get it, and I went back and I watched and I was like, oh, that's that one where Daffy comes out and he at the end, he does Bugs' bit or whatever, and I'm like, holy shit, I remember this, and it was
I don't remember that.
Gremlins 2.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I think I have to YouTube that one. Christian, do you have another good example of?
And again, speaking of kids' movies that we have to see now, thank goodness for that, for crying out loud. I think one of the more obvious ones was the Lego movie, right?
Yeah.
The transition from the logo into the movie. I mean, I guess technically that's something I'm supposed to hate, but I mean, it's the friggin' Lego movie that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that seems like once again, some of these ones are obvious, but it's like it makes so much sense that it'd be dumb if they didn't do it.
Like the Matrix one is one of the. You had to do that. Like that is. You were everyone who's watching the movie should supposedly be inside the Matrix, right? Like that is the whole fucking point of that.
Yeah, and it's like Lego. I mean, even more so with goddamn, like when you're talking about like the video game with Scott Pilgrim or Wreck-It Ralph. It's like you gotta do 8-bit. Like Lego, how could you not? It's like saying you're making Light Bright the movie and you don't do the studio logo in fucking Light Bright. You know what I mean? Like it's you gotta goddamn do that. This is kind of picking up what Christian just threw down there. Horrible movie, okay? And some of these examples are bad movies. We've already thrown out Smurfs 2.
You hate the Lego movie?
No. What I'm about to say, I love the Lego movie. Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, not good at all.
My kids loved that movie. I put it on for them. They were falling off the couch with some of the bits of that movie. And I said to myself watching, well, obviously... either my kids are really stupid, or obviously I'm not the audience for this movie, but they enjoyed the shit out of that movie.
Yeah. My kids were like, this guy is a jerk. He's like ruining this kid's house, and I'm like, exactly.
He is a dick in that movie.
I go, that is what you are supposed to take away from this movie. Good job.
I think your kids, we are, well, I won't even say it, but I think we know the
answer.
That
their dad's a jerk? I already know this.
Okay, the Cat in the Hat. Maybe arguably, if you're the Nielsen kids, you think this is high art, but for everyone else, maybe not great. But the opening logos, and there's a couple. I think it's like DreamWorks and Universal. It's like one of those co-productions. It's all done in Dr. Seuss art style and font. It is really nice. Like, it is really well done. Like, YouTube it, Google it. It is so cool if you've never seen it. Like, it's drawn exactly in that style. That, to me, that's a nice touch. I think for a movie like that, great touch.
But unfortunately, it doesn't save the movie for you. Like,
No.
You can't just enjoy that movie just based on the fantasticness of the logo variation.
Oh, no, I hated that movie so much I didn't remember that logo variant until this.
I seem to remember Roger Ebert's review of that movie, and he said, if it wasn't for the logo variation at the beginning of this movie, I'd probably really, 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 really hate this film.
It would have been completely
I'm paraphrasing
awful.
here. I'm not exactly sure if that's exactly what he wrote, but something along those lines.
May he rest in peace. Another like terrible goddamn movie. Well, okay, the sequel's terrible. But just one of those ones where you're like, come on, if you didn't do this, there'd be something wrong. Is the Flintstones movies changed it to Universal?
Yeah.
And
but only for Viva Rock Vegas, right? Like, as far as I could tell, they didn't do it for the first one. I don't know why.
No, they did. They did.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. But in Viva Rock Vegas, like, this is one of those examples, like the Waterworld one, like Downs was talking about, is where they pull out from the planet and the Great Gazoo's like spaceship is flying around the Earth or something like that. But I think they actually called Universal in the first film.
Yeah, but the Great Gazoo actually references the. Did anyone see those letters go around the planet? Just the last second.
Yeah. But that's
the Batman movies. The last couple of shitty Batman movies. They do that with they morph from the WB logo into the Batman logo, right? Which that is totally appropriate. I would think.
I think those are awesome. Is that like the Schumacher ones did that? I think.
Yeah. It wasn't in the first couple. It's only in the Schumacher era.
But that's cool. I think, despite, once again, bad movies. That's pretty cool. I liked when
I think it shows a certain amount of creativity. Again, I think maybe you're thinking outside the box or whatever. I fucking appreciate the hell out of it. That's
Warner Brothers has been doing that forever, apparently, according to my internet research. You know what I mean? Looking up almost every single movie they've ever done, or at least a lot of them, Warner Brothers have been adjusting their logo. I mean, I look back. 1938, they mixed up their logo for The Adventures of Robin Hood in the friggin' opening of that movie.
What did they do for that? Like, what was the change?
They made it like a coat of arms with kind of like leaves or friggin' symbols all around it. Like, it wasn't the traditional Warner Brothers logo.
Wow.
You know what's funny about that, though? As much as that they have done, and I agree. When I was looking, I was like, holy shit, another Warner Brothers one, and a lot of them, though, I find that they're the simplest of the customizations, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's just a big fucking shield. So usually maybe it'll fly by, but a lot of times it's just the background is different. You know what I mean? Like very few people actually manipulate the logo, if you know what I mean. Like, versus that 20th Fox Cannonball Run, where a cartoon, a car drove up it. Like, most of the time, it's just the shield flies by at the very most. Most.
Like in all the Harry Potter movies, it's either kind of like shimmery or cloudy or just dark. You know what I mean? But there's like a very slight variant on the original logo.
You know, okay. So let's get into this. Is that I think we're all agreeing that it feels like, and we have not validated this with any sort of accurate research, but it feels like Warner Brothers is the champ for doing this. Like, they've done it the most. What, in our opinion, is, and Downs, you were already kind of alluding to this. Which studio logos are the best for these variations based on their design. Warner Brothers, as we said, it's a shield, right? It's the big W, it's the big B. It's practically it's a mashup of the Superman and Batman logo, practically, right? Like, so it's very easy to change the color of it, add some snow, blah blah blah, right? Like, what?
I was just trying to think, what would be the name of the superhero with that freaking crest? Would it be like Wonder Batman or something like that?
Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy. Yeah, like Wonder. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Wonder Brad. But yeah, like what are the other ones in your
Wealthy Baby Boy?
Welcoming Baby Boy. What in your opinions, guys? Based on their design, what are the logos that are best suited for these variants beyond Warner Brothers? Because we've talked about there's a shitload of these ones.
So I'm going to jump in. I think that one of the best ones out there to do this for, I mean, some of the other ones are good, but I think Disney is the best. With their nowadays, their current logo with the train in the background, it starts off with a train. Like I was in the theater. I remember this when I was looking at some of these videos on YouTube, and I was like, I remember thinking, what studio is this? That there's a train in it? Because I don't remember a train in the back of the goddamn Disney logo. But it starts way the fuck back there, and you pull back, or sometimes they'll have. Other ones they have is the fireworks going off, and that's the focus. But there are so many elements, I think, a part of the Disney logo that are spectacular. It makes for a lot of opportunities to make cool visuals.
Yeah, see, what they do in a lot of the variants here is they change the castle itself, right? Because it ultimately pulls back and shows the very familiar Disney castle. What they do in a lot of these is they change the actual building. You know, like the Tron.
They did that in Maleficent.
Yes, that's a good one. The Maleficent, that's that Angelina Jolie movie, which I saw. It's pretty good.
That's a fucking. I really like that movie. I love the character Maleficent. But.
Yeah, so the castle is actually the castle in the movie, and then another good one is Tron Legacy. The castle is like a Tron universe sort of castle. So you're right, Downs. That is the Disney castle and its surrounding environment. There's a lot you can manipulate there, is what you're saying.
Compared to what we were just saying, like with WB, it's not just a big fucking shield with it says WB on it, right? Like it's got elements that are fantastical. So again, like those the one when I watched with the fireworks, it was like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, oh right, this is Disney. And again, it was like that guy. He didn't even think about the train or a lot of people times they'll change the terrain around the castle too, right?
Yeah, like you'll know. So go ahead.
There's just so many elements. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like for the Disney nature movies where it's like an hour-long movie where you're following a fucking bear and watching him shit in the woods. The intro variant logo on that is like instead of the castle, it's a mountain. Instead.
Yeah, I saw that. I've never seen one of those nature films, but it's just neat. Like you're right. There's a lot you can do. I think another really good candidate for this is, and this is one we've already mentioned before, is Universal. I mean, it's got the goddamn planet Earth. You know what I mean? Like that one. Spinning Earth, Universal going around it. There's a lot you can do with this, and they have done a lot of this. I mean, they've done. Another one is The Burbs, the movie The Burbs, where they basically zoom in to the Earth and go all the way down to the house. Like Waterworld did this. I think there's even with that Flintstones one, the Earth's land masses will change depending on that. It's just. Having that planet at your disposal. There was one, I think, for
Wimbledon. They made it a tennis ball. I saw Rocky and Bullwinkle. They put all the antlers on the planet for Universal.
The other basketball, they turned it into the basketball. Their whole title sequence circled around the planet and turns it into a basketball, right? Like
Oblivion, that Tom Cruise movie. There's a really neat thing where the Earth starts kind of looks kind of like the future version of Earth, and a spaceship flies around it.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, they've done a lot of that with space, right? You've got the Earth. Suddenly that can be a planet. You can zoom out. Instead of zooming in, you can zoom out and you're in space, too, right?
I don't know if anyone's ever zoomed out, though. Maybe the universe, the fucking Flintstones movie that we just mentioned. But you're right. If you're doing a goddamn science fiction movie for Universal, you got to use that fucking Earth. Like, you got to do something with that.
You have to.
Especially if the Earth is in the title of the movie.
After Earth? No, that was in a... I don't know if that was a Universal.
Earth Girls Are Easy? I don't know.
Universal Earth, the planet we all live on or something?
See, now, here's the thing. Some of these... Now, Columbia... that we've mentioned before, fucking Julie Liberty holding up her torch. A little harder. You can make her animated, give her a different hat, but a little harder to do that one. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I think that's a lot easier to work with than fucking 20th Century Fox. That's probably the worst of them all. I mean, what are you going to do? What can you do with that other than the ones we've mentioned already? As far as I don't even think there's that many out there.
There aren't. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I know. I mean, I can't think of a lot of variants that have.
Oh, the Chipmunks I saw. That's the one I saw. The Chipmunks singing along with the music for 20th Century Fox. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, really, it's about the fanfare too, right? So, I saw. Moulin Rouge did it, of all fucking movies. I've never actually. I think I may have been forced to sit through this movie once by my wife. Thankfully, I can't remember any of it. I had a lot of absinthe to drink before I watched the movie.
That is required, in fact. Yes,
that is required. But they actually had. Clever. They had a kind of silhouette like orchestra, and like the curtains open, and it's like dun 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 dun, and I think it was Fox, and so that made a lot of sense because it was an orchestra. So it takes, I think it's you got to work with the fanfare to get the 20th Century Fox really to make it work. I think it's more about the sound than the picture probably.
Yeah, the Aliens 3 Cubed, whatever the fuck they called that one.
Yes.
That one they didn't change the 20th Century Fox logo, but they changed the sound. They held a note and made it go like they made like the music change a little bit. Christian, you're right. Hard to change this one. Here's another one that's hard to change. Goddamn TriStar Pictures with that fucking unicorn, that like thing, the flying Pegasus thing. Like, is there a variant of that? I mean, unless
or what about DreamWorks, for Christ's sakes? Like, I think there has been, but has that kid freaking jumped out of the moon and fucking speared a fish or something like that? You know what I mean?
You know what?
No, but there are variants of that. There, some animated someone, they had them go up in the moon and do the fishing instead of the kid doing the fishing. And I mean, I think you totally could have something where like he catches a huge fish and it eats the kid or the moon or something. I think you could totally do shit with that.
I feel like the animated film that Seinfeld did, the Bee Movie, I think it's like a bee kind of stings the boy and he falls off the edge of the moon.
Yes. And I mean, so did I already mention this? But animated movies, like they are Disney. Literally, almost every one of their movies does it now. Pixar, I mean, Wall-E comes out for the Pixar one. Like, if you're already got a bunch of fucking people drawing shit, how much more is it to draw a few more scenes? Like, I don't think it's anything more in terms of the impact of the budget and shit. Like, why aren't you doing this if you're making an animated movie, I guess is my point.
Yeah, like you're totally right. I mean, I guess before we wrap up here is that you don't see a lot of like focus features and like Miramax and all of these like studio variants. These 10, you don't like, you know what I mean? Like you're not seeing like for Oscar-winning pictures that they're doing this. It tends to be big blockbustery animated family movies, etc. Like I don't think Miramax is or Dimension Films or something like that.
Mandalay Bay?
Yeah, like, I don't think those I can't recall any variants of those.
That tiger's a robot. Oh, it must be a movie about robots.
But it's, like I said, I mean, I think all of us appreciate when studios make that little added extra effort to do this. I think, sure, maybe it is, inconsequential to the actual movie itself, good or bad, but I think it's kind of a neat effort that filmmakers put into it. I hope they continue it. So before we wrap up, is there anything else?
I don't have anything else.
I actually have something else that is kind of related to what we're talking about tonight. So I assume neither of you guys have seen this documentary. It's called Electric Boogaloo, The Crazy Messed Up Story of Canon Films. Does anyone even know what I'm talking about?
No, I've not heard.
No, I do not.
I remember Canon Films, though.
Okay, so this movie showed up in my feed, and so I'm like, I know Canon Films, as I mentioned, especially because when I was a teenager, I watched a lot of kind of crappy movies like Delta Force and Invasion USA with Chuck Norris or Mission Impossible, things like that, and they were all made by a company called Canon Films. So yeah. I knew, and I was like,
didn't Canon Films make the original Terminator? I feel like
that wasn't mentioned in this documentary. Interesting enough, maybe it wasn't allowed to be, or some things I don't know if they had the rights to, but okay. It turns out that basically the two guys who ran Canon Films are these two Israeli cousins who started out in Israel making movies and then kind of came to North America, and they were kind of boob flicks. And so, of course, this movie goes into this whole rise and fall of this company who basically launched Chuck Norris's career. They did. What else did they do? They launched the whole breakdancing movie craze. Beat Street or Beat It, whatever the break.
Beats. No, it was Beat Street. Breakin' and Beat Street. Those were the twist. Those were like the Deep Impact and Armageddon of breakdancing movies. There was like two that came out at the same time.
Right, and so these guys did one of them, and they take credit for like basically saying that they launched the breakdance movie craze. They also launched, thought up Enter the Dragon. So the whole, Enter the Ninja. So they're like, people wouldn't know what ninjas were if we didn't make movies about ninjas in the 80s. And so these guys would make 40 movies in a year. Most studios struggle to make 10. These guys would put out 40 fucking movies. Most of them were absolute garbage. But so, of course, they have this totally crazy history about up and down, and I was just blown away. It always amazes me is how people, these guys just said they loved to make movies. They were huge fans of cinema, and that was why they did it. And so they would never take limos and shit in the first few years. They wouldn't cater lunches. They would kind of take their staff's lunches. Weird shit, and they made all these movies that you and I remember today. So I just had to say. No, it wasn't Netflix where it came up for me. It was somewhere in the dark web or something like that.
Oh, right.
But so it's definitely, though, if it does show up somewhere, if you hear about it, it's called Electric Boogaloo, or the crazy mixed up history of Canon Films. I definitely suggest you checking it out. Any kids of the 80s should watch this.
I love documentaries, and that's the sort of thing I would love to watch, like that sort of content for sure.
It's just amazing when that it's like these people didn't know what the fuck they're doing sometimes. You know what I mean? And it makes me think that wow, I could not know what the fuck I'm doing and be making movies or something. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
I cannot know what I'm doing. I'm that guy.
I cannot know what I'm doing and making movies.
I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Pay me, God damn it. Okay, so one thing for me is, did anybody watch The Last Man on Earth?
I did, for crying out loud. Holy God, that's the funniest. Well, it was an hour this time, but that freaking show is just right up my alley for hilariousness, for crying out loud. God, I love the Will Forte, for crying out loud.
Holy shit! I mean, this was probably one of the most original, creative shows I've seen, and it was on fucking Fox. Like, it was on Fox.
I'm telling you right now, fans of obscure comedy that's on broadcast television, watch this show now while you can, because I guarantee you it won't last for much longer.
I don't know. I mean, it was made by the guys that created the Lego Movie, the aforementioned Lego Movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, 21 Jump Street. They are, I think it's like Lord and Miller, those two directors. They are so hot right now. And God, it's, I mean, Will Forte, it is so clever. It is so, like, I can't remember on the last time on television where I legitimately laughed out loud. Like, there were multiple laugh out loud moments, and it is so creatively done. Like, in this, basically the setup here is Guy is the last dude on Earth, but he's not like a crusader. He's not a warrior. He's just some schlub that ends up going around the Earth, and he ends up, what city does he end up in? Not Arizona. Tucson, and he just moves into some guy's house, but he stole like so much famous shit. Like, he's wearing Rocky Balboa's like
robe.
He's got
pajamas.
He's got like some like Academy Awards, and like the shit that he does to pass his spare time is so crazy. Like, he doesn't open doors anymore. He just carries a gun around and shoots doors open and stuff.
I watched this on the couch with my wife, and if anything, my wife was upset the fact I actually laughed too much during this movie. She says, it's not that funny. I go, damn right it's that funny. Crying out loud.
My wife loved it. Like, we quoted it. We've been talking about it since. I hope it does well. Honestly, Downs and the rest of our listeners, if you haven't checked this out, I think at the time of this recording, they've shown the first two because they did it back to back in one night. It's called The Last Man on Earth, stars former SNL Will Forte. It's very goddamn funny and smart and cool. It's good. So there you go. That's Season 2, Episode 23 in the books. But fear not, we will return next week. I'm not going to be here, but one of these jerks is hosting. I think it's Mike Downs. Downs, what is on deck?
No comment.
No comment. It's a secret special episode. Log in with your decoder ring, and you'll find out on Tuesday. So, guys, you can follow the Atomic Geeks. We're all over the internet. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can go to our website, theatomicgeeks.com. Wherever you listen to our show, iTunes, Stitcher, or any of the other apps, leave us a review. Give us a rating. Come on, guys. It's been a long time. Somebody do it. Somebody give us some feedback. We just love that. So this is Michael DiGiovanni for Mike Downs and Christian Nielsen saying the Atomic Geeks out. There you go.
Ouch.
So, okay. So, yeah, obviously I'll